do I even need to explain what I'm looking at? Just look at this thing. It's like the most insane possible vehicle they could have created. But anyway, this is the 2024 Tesla CyberTruck. Again, the single most absurd vehicle ever made and produced, probably ever. It is stainless steel, can tow 11,000 pounds, can beat a Ferrari in a drag race, and is fully electric and looks like a stainless steel refrigerator with wheels. In this video, I'm going to review it and show some of its quirk and features, and at the end, I'll give it a drive, and I'm not gonna give it a Doug score because I'm not Doug DeMuro. Back in 2019, Tesla rolled out this thing at the Cybertruck unveil event. It was the most insane thing that people have ever seen. This was back before the Rivian R1T, the Ford F-150 Lightning, and the GMC Hummer EV even existed as a concept to most people. This was the first mainstream electric pickup truck to be announced, but it was actually like the last one to actually come out. But this thing is ridiculous looking. I don't even know what to say. We should just get into a tour of the Cybertruck. I think most of you guys know the backstory on this thing. When Elon threw the metal ball bearing thing at the window and broke the glass, that was a big moment in Tesla's history. So let's just get into a full tour of the Tesla Cybertruck. Okay, starting up at the front, you got a full width front light bar, which is not actually your headlights. Your headlights are down here in the bumper next to your turn signals and secondary DRLs right next to the headlights. You got two tow recovery points on the front in case you get stuck or you have to pull someone else out. You have a front camera, a first for a Tesla, and it actually does have a washer, but underneath this hood, there is actually a front trunk. And once you pop it open, you reveal a kind of disappointingly small front trunk. It does fit a backpack and quite a few other things in there, but it's just not very deep. I wish they would have made this go a lot deeper into the dash, but I guess with the design, you can only do so much. But you do have a little Cybertruck engraving thing into the plastic. It looks like welding, but it's just plastic. Overall, there is a decent sized front trunk. It's probably cubic feet wise about what you get in a Model S. It's just a little too narrow for my taste. You just push this button or the same button that you used before, and then it'll just automatically close using the power frunk. All right, moving to the wiper, something I don't normally talk about, but this thing is the largest wiper in a production vehicle. It's just one singular wiper. It's composed of, I think, two different wiper blades, or maybe it's just one long one. But it just wipes the whole windshield all in one sweep. And again, it's very, very long. Moving on down to the wheels, the Founders Edition comes with these 35-inch Goodyear all-terrain tires specifically designed for the Cybertruck because they have this cool pattern that fits around the wheel covers. And by the way, these do pop off. I'm not going to remove them because I don't exactly know how to remove them, but these do pop off to reveal a nicer looking alloy wheel underneath. When it comes to suspension tech on the Cybertruck, there's a 4-corner air suspension setup, so one for every wheel, and can go up to 17 inches of ground clearance, and I think like 10 inches of travel, so it can go from like 7 inches all the way up to that 17 inches of ground clearance, which is more ground clearance than a Rivian R1T, more than a TRX, and more than a Ford Raptor. So this actually has a crap ton of ground clearance. Now, unlike the Rivian, this just has a regular sway bar setup, unlike the hydraulic sway bars that the Rivian has. So this is just a little bit more traditional in that sense, but it should still be incredibly off-road capable. Moving down to the doors, first off, you may notice these mirrors. They weren't on the initial prototype, but according to US law, you have to have mirrors. So they are here. They're nice and angular to fit the design of the truck, and they should be, in theory, removable. I don't know how you would remove them, but Tesla does say they are removable. Looking at the door itself, you can see it's made of stainless steel, and this is actually bulletproof up to like a 22 caliber round. To open the door, you just push this little button, and it extends with a little plunger, and then you can just open the door like that. Rather than the initial door handles like they had on the initial prototype, they didn't want to have to cut another hole in the bodywork, which is understandable. But I kind of like not having them because, for one, this is pretty easy to do still, and it cleans up the design a lot. Also, speaking of getting in, if you tap a key card that comes with the truck right here, that will unlock it, lock it. I don't have the key card with me because the owner just gave us a link to the Tesla app as a key, so you can actually start, unlock, you can change the climate control, you can open the tonneau and the trunk, and you can do all sort of crazy things with the Tesla app. Those are the two main ways you're going to get into this, either the phone key or the key card that you just tap right here and then it automatically unlocks. Moving to the rear wheels, you have the exact same tire size as up front, again a 35-inch tire, but suspension is interesting because the Cybertruck has 4-wheel steering. So the back wheels can actually turn up to 10 degrees in either direction to make the steering angle a lot sharper. This has the same turning radius as a Model S, which is significantly smaller than the Cybertruck. Moving back to the charge port, which is located here just behind the rear wheel on the rear fender, just tap to and it'll automatically open up to reveal an NACS port And this is where I usually talk about motor and battery specs. So let's get to that. This is the CyberTruck all-wheel drive. It has a rear permanent magnet motor, an induction front electric motor. It has a locking differential on the rear and front axle. And in total, those two motors produce 600 horsepower or 450 kilowatts and around 700 pound-feet of torque. This can do 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds, but there is a Cyber Beast variant that can do it in 2.4. That has a permanent magnet front electric motor, 2 induction rear motors. Front motor has a locking diff on that model, 845 horsepower, 870 pound-feet of torque. Both of them can tow 11,000 pounds. Every Cybertruck gets a 123 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that can charge up to 300 kilowatts due to its 800-volt architecture. However, that's at a V4 supercharger, which doesn't currently exist. At a current V3 supercharger, you can charge up to 250 kilowatts through this charge port, and that does 10 to 80% in about 40 minutes. As far as the range goes, the EPA rates this Cybertruck with all-terrain tires 318 miles, but realistically, you're probably going to get around 260, 270 in the real world. One thing to note, instead of having a 12-volt battery, this has a 48-volt battery, so it can use lower voltage cabling throughout the whole truck and reduce the whole system amperage. So that's the first vehicle to have a 48-volt low-voltage system. Moving around to the rear, you have a full-width rear light bar. These will turn into your turn signals and brake lights when you push the brake, and when you push the brakes, this actually disappears, and then there's an actual lower line that acts as the third brake light since there is no third brake light up here. Your reverse lights are down here, as well as your normal license plate bracket, although they just have a temp tag slapped on there for right now. Very simple rear lighting. Here's your backup camera. Down here, there's the tow hitch under that little plastic cover. Very simple rear end design. Again, very square because the Cybertruck is, I was going to say square, but it's more of a triangle, really. Anyway, moving into the bed, which is the most important part of a truck. Push this button and the tailgate automatically drops down, and push this button and the tonneau cover will retract, which will eventually reveal that rear window, which is normally covered by that tonneau cover. There you go. Now, this is a 6-foot bed, several tie-down points in the floor. You do have some bed lighting and some tracks to move so you can tie down more cargo. And in here you have 2 NEMA 20R receptacles. They're 20 amps, so you can plug in a 20 amp service. And you have a NEMA 1450 plug, which can supply 50 amps, so you can run a welder, you can charge another EV off that. Basically do anything you want. There is a lot of space. And if you need more space, there is a hidden compartment right here, which actually has a drain in it, so you can use it as a cooler. And there's some dividers in here to section off your cargo. Close that, and then when you want to close it, this is like assisted with like a spring, so it actually is fairly light and easy to lift into place despite it being stainless steel. Moving to the interior, again, just push the little button and the door pops open. Sitting inside, you will meet your squircle steering wheel, which is kind of weird. And fun fact, this is never connected to the front wheels because it's steer by wire. So the only thing connecting this wheel to those wheels is a computer and some logic. So that's your maximum steering angle, and it's very crazy because turning this thing, you just turn this much and then you've done a U-turn. As far as the materials in here go, you do have some nice white leatherette on the dash, and everything in here feels very Tesla. The build quality is about what I would expect from Tesla. I wish it was a little nicer for the price point that it's going for. The Rivian interior is quite a bit nicer than this because it has an actual gauge cluster and some wood on the dash, but overall, the interior in here is acceptable. You have 12-way power adjustable heated and ventilated front seats. You do have a large center console, 2 cup holders, 2 wireless chargers, and again, no center gauge cluster. Everything is on the central 18-inch center touchscreen, which works super fast. You do have some ambient lighting right above the air vents in the dash, and some more on the door. And to adjust those vents, you go into the touchscreen and move them on the display. As far as your steering controls go, you will notice there is no turn signal stalks. Your signal buttons are on the steering wheel, so you just click them right here, and that's your turn signals. The sound system is amazing. I think it's 9 speakers, but it has plenty of bass, plenty of clarity, probably the single best sound system I've experienced in any new car, really. That's pretty much it for the interior. Very, very simple and very minimalistic in here, as all Teslas are. Let's move on to the back seats. Moving into the back seats, open it the same way as you did in the front. Sitting back here, you will notice that the doors do open 90 degrees, which is very wide. I have a good amount of knee room, just about enough headroom. My head almost hits the glass roof if I sit up straight enough. You do have rear windows that go almost all the way down. There is just a little bit of glass left over. Good sized door bins. You can put some water bottles in them. Good sized seat back pockets. You do have a center touchscreen to control your rear fan speed and heated seats. You can also watch YouTube back here and like Netflix and stuff. And you can actually move the front passenger seat from here as well to give you more legroom. There is a center armrest. Pull this little tab and it folds down. You get 2 cup holders in the armrest. You move the air vents the same way you did up front on the touchscreen. From back here, you get a great view out of this glass roof, although it is a little bit close to my head. I wish I would have a little bit more headroom because it does feel a slight bit claustrophobic for me. There is enough space in here, and it's definitely a lot larger than the Rivian R1T's back seat. Another good feature of this rear seat, if you pull this little tab, these seats actually lift up to where you can actually store on the rear floor. And so I could probably almost lie across this if I like wasn't stretched out all the way. So you can actually put some stuff inside here if you need to. Again, very useful back seat. That's enough for the tour. Let's talk styling and price. First off, the styling. I don't even think I need to talk about it. Just look at it. It's the most polarizing GE stainless steel refrigerator ever. I didn't even know they made one with wheels, but I kind of like it just because there's nothing else like it on the road. It gets so much attention. Within like probably 12 hours of us having it in total, we've had at least 25 people come up and ask us about it. We've had 2 just in the past 15 minutes. It's an attention grabber if I've ever seen it. Anyway, that's enough for the styling. The pricing. This is the dual motor all-wheel drive, which starts at $80,000, and it's also the Foundation series, so that adds another 20 grand. Keep in mind, in 2019, the dual motor all-wheel drive cost $60,000. So overall, not including the Foundation package, that's an up of 20 grand over what it was in 2019. But you got to think, that's 5 years ago. We had a whole global pandemic and a new president has messed up the economy. So for what you're getting, 80 grand or 100 grand for this one is honestly still not that bad. You can actually go one step up and get the Cyber Beast, which is the tri-motor, and with the Foundation package, that's 120 grand, but you get that 2.6 seconds, there's just 0 to 60. This one can only do about 4 seconds, but still, it's plenty quick. I don't think you really need to go faster in a truck, unless if you just want to show off. Okay, I think we've gone through a thorough tour of the Cybertruck. Now let's just get into the quirks and features, which is kind of a hard thing to cover because this whole entire vehicle in itself is kind of a quirk, but let's get into the more little hidden quirks of the Tesla Cybertruck. Like a quirk is that you can see the wheel is not turned and it's not lined up with this wheel, but then when I open the door, then it straightens itself out to where it should be. If I close it, you can see then it's starting to turn because of the gravity, and then it just falls. If you go into here and you go into dynamics, there is an off-road setting. You go into off-road mode. Then you have Overland and Baja. And then there's a Wade mode, raises ride height and pressurizes the battery when driving through water so you can not hydrolock your water. I also think that you can, oh, here we go. Click vitals, see your motor temperatures and your ride height and stuff. And then in the Baja setting, you have different deceleration modes. You can pick your handling balance, so you can make it rear wheel drive or front wheel drive. You can do your stability assist, a bunch of different off-road settings. Like other Teslas, you can swipe to shift on the screen. You swipe up for drive, down for reverse. If the screen fails, up here on the ceiling, you push this, you actually have your PRND on the ceiling right next to the hazard light button. So I can push drive up there and it will let me drive forward. Also, since the tonneau cover covers the back window, when you go into drive, a camera places your rear view mirror on this display. And it's confusing because you would think other cars have a screen in this mirror, so why wouldn't they just do that? They actually just put it on the display instead. And then when you turn on your turn signal, it shows your blind spot instead of the back of the truck. Also in here, you can also control which outlets are on and how much power they're using. Another thing that's interesting is just this graphic of the Cybertruck that you have. Like you can open your front trunk from here, like you can just push that and it'll open up. You can pop your tailgate down like this. You can open your charge port and it'll open that up, and then it'll bring up your charging display menu. Also in here you have like a little, like, it looks like a welded, but I think it's actually just like machined or something, like a Cybertruck font on this little kick plate right next to the door. And if you notice in the interior, everything is angular. The seat controls are angular, the seat brackets are angular, door panels are all angular, the steering wheel is angular. Everything is squared off, and it helps it match this aesthetic that the Cybertruck has just as a whole. When you open the door, it automatically pops out, but you can't actually push it back in because there's actually a little plunger that pops out, so it actually breaks the ice. If you look all around the Cybertruck, you will never find a Tesla badge. There isn't one on the wheels, there isn't one on the hood, there isn't one on the back, there isn't even one on the steering wheel. It's just this Cybertruck looking silhouette picture here. That's all they've put. There's no Tesla branding on here. Also, the sun visors have this little magnetic clip instead of like a plastic clip. And this is not just your whole sun visor. This actually extends down and then your mirror is in that. So you actually have quite a large sun visor to use. So the way you normally get out of the Cybertruck, just like the Model 3, Y, S, and X, is that you push this little button and it electronically releases. But what if 12 volt, or actually the 48 volt system is dead? Well, just like the Model 3, Y, S, and X, there is an emergency release that you can pull like this, and it usually says manual door release used may cause damage to window trim. This window has to roll down, and so if the 48 volt is dead, it can't actually roll down the window to let the door open. So don't actually use that unless you are actually trapped in the vehicle. Also, when you're sitting in here, you really realize how far away the front of the dash is. Like, that's me reaching as far as I can, and that's like halfway. So if you lose something up there, that's gonna just be up there forever. A cool little Easter egg, which you would know if you watched the launch event, is if you tap this,
oh my God.
You have a little Easter egg when he breaks the window, and you can break the other one too.
Oh man, it didn't go through.
An interesting feature involving this tailgate is because that this tonneau cover is here, you could technically trap someone in here. So inside the tailgate, under this little cover, there is this red tab, and this is actually an emergency release for the tailgate. So if you are either stuck in here or you are using this to camp in here, you could probably lock yourself in here and then use this to get out. This is useful so you can open the tailgate from the inside of the truck. You actually have this little button called bioweapon defense mode, and that basically runs the air through a very strong HEPA filter to clean the air around you. So if you're driving through like a smoky forest like they had at like those Canada wildfires, you could use that to clean the outside air when it comes into the cabin, which is a good feature for your air quality. You actually have a dog mode, so this will keep your climate on when you get outside when you leave the vehicle. And so when you hop outside, it actually shows a little display of like, oh, your pet is safe and comfy, and like it'll show the temperature, which is a feature across all Teslas, but it still applies to this one regardless. Usually when the window's all the way up, it has to roll down when you open the door. But if the window's all the way down when you open the door, it actually lifts it a little bit when you open it, which is kind of strange. I've never seen any like frameless windows behave like this, and it's unique to this Tesla. I've never seen it on like the Model 3 or the Model Y. Another thing that's not unique to the Cybertruck, but just Teslas in general, the way you adjust your mirrors, you go into here and then you actually just use the button on the steering wheel to adjust your mirrors. And same for the steering wheel. So you go right here, and you use this to adjust it. Also, this seatbelt adjuster, you can just push it up, but like to lower it, there's no button here, so you just have to push right where that little like V shape is, and it's just under the cloth. You just press it, and then that's how you adjust the seatbelt height. And just like other Teslas, there actually is a feeder application, so you can watch Netflix, Hulu, YouTube. So I can literally go into here like this, and then I can literally just watch my YouTube videos on the Cybertruck's display. Also, whenever you open the door, you get the little Cybertruck font. In the back, you actually have little like coat hooks if you want to use that, and these lights are actually like touch sensitive lights. You don't actually press them. So there are some quirks and features of this vehicle. Now, let's get it out on the road and see how this thing drives. And if you're coming from a regular truck, it doesn't drive like a truck. It drives a lot better. So let's get this thing out on the road and see how fun it is to drive. Okay, so we are gonna drive the Tesla Cybertruck. First off, I just pushed the brake and it's already in drive. It just guessed what direction I need to go in, and it was correct. So we are now in drive, and if you want to change gears, you can swipe up on the screen, but we don't need to because it already pre-selected the correct gear. Now my indicators are on the actual steering wheel, so to indicate, I have to push the button. Also, it's very weird because if you turn just a little bit, it turns like all the way, which is just the weirdest feeling. At low speeds, it's really maneuverable with that four-wheel steering. And the ride, from my perspective at least, is very comfortable. The seats are very supportive. They're very comfortable. They got 12-way adjustment. They're heated, ventilated. Both of them work extremely well. The comfort in here is pretty great. The wind noise is also pretty good. It's pretty sealed up in here too. Like, you can feel it depressurized when you open the doors after running the climate control. But let's get out on the main road and we'll see what it's like at higher speeds. So we're about to get on a higher speed road. I'm gonna go left. How does it feel at higher speeds? Well, Very stable is the answer to that. Just like all heavier electric vehicles, this does feel very stable. And I can give it some gas and it accelerates quick enough. I honestly don't think you need the Cyber Beast other than just like, because it doesn't tow more, it doesn't get any more range. It's just like, it's just faster is the gimmick. I would just get this and get the longer range. Now, as I get up to like roughly 60 miles an hour, that vibration is present, and I again don't know what it is. It could be the tires, it could be the motors, it could be like something with the suspension dampening or something, but I doubt it because it's very consistent over every road surface. But the right news of this is that once you get going above 70 miles an hour, the vibration seems to disappear. Aside from that though, this thing drives, like apart from the steering, it just drives like a Tesla. Like you feel planted, it feels stable like every Tesla does. The only thing weird about it is just the steering and all the attention you get from it, because it's a very, very attention-grabbing vehicle. Okay, so we are going to merge onto the I-35 South in the CyberTruck. Let's go into Dynamic Sport. Alright, ready, and... Yep, it's pretty quick. That's 70. I really don't think the Cyber Beast is necessary, to be honest. One complaint I do have, the visibility is not great. The A-pillars are quite large, and the rear visibility, well, when the tonneau's closed, there is no rear visibility. Even when it's open, the side flares of the vehicle kind of block your visibility, but it's not really that much worse than a normal pickup truck, so I'll give it a pass at the rear. But these pillars are just, they're in a weird place, and people are like, getting out their phones, they're like, what is that?
We could do a 20-minute skit of just people staring.
Yeah, like
and taking...
you could do like 10 hours of that.
It's endless. Or we got tied up at the Tesla charger where there was 20 people around us.
Oh
and
yeah,
we
we were like stuck there almost. Overall, this thing is such an interesting piece of engineering. It's the craziest designed vehicle of all time. Like, that's not a concept car. That's my driving impressions of the Cybertruck. Fast, comfortable, has a few issues, has a few quirks, but if you can get over them, fantastic truck. Apart from maybe the range. The range could be better, but yeah, good. And there you go, a thorough review, driving impressions, and quirks and features of the Tesla Cybertruck. I will have some more videos over this, a vlog where we went to pick this thing up and actually experiencing it for the first time, so infotainment, some 0 to 60 tests, and other things like that on my YouTube channel. But that's going to be the end of this review. See y'all in the next one.